You're with ABC News. It's 9 a.m. Eastern and 7 a.m. in the West, continuing the ABC's coverage of the major flood emergency unfolding in New South Wales. This morning, confirmation a man's body has been found at a flooded home on the mid-north coast. And additional evacuation orders have been issued with more heavy rain to come. A massive rescue operation is continuing across the state with thousands of people isolated. We'll be speaking to the reporters and residents on the ground, and we'll be getting updates from emergency services right across this morning. Also ahead, the Nationals leader denies the shock split from the coalition was premeditated, as Liberal leader Susan Lee's office disputes claims made by Bridget McKenzie on the ABC that Cabinet solidarity was not one of the key issues that triggered the fallout. Overseas, and foreign diplomats forced to run for cover after Israeli troops fired what is described as warning shots near a delegation touring the West Bank. It's added to mounting international pressure on Israel, with several nations criticising its restrictions on Gaza. You'll hear from experts later in the program. Plus, tense talks. US President Donald Trump clashes with his South African counterpart over claims of violence against white farmers. Mr. Trump used the White House meeting to repeat the discredited claims while leafing through various news reports on the topic. And sweet victory. Ange Postecoglou leads Tottenham to victory in the Europa League, claiming the club's first trophy in 17 years and giving a resounding rebuke to speculation about his future at the club. It's Thursday, the 22nd of May. I'm Dan Borscher from the lands of the Darug people here in Parramatta in Western Sydney. This is ABC News Mornings. The first death has been recorded in the New South Wales flooding emergency as severe rain continues to inundate the region. A 63-year-old man was found dead at his property in Moto near Taree yesterday afternoon. New South Wales Premier Chris Minns has paid tribute to the man.
It's devastating for that man and his family and his friends. It's a tight-knit community on the mid-north coast, and to lose anyone in these natural disasters is obviously horrifying. So I'm very sorry for that man's passing. We should be bracing for more tough news over the next 24 hours. We're very grateful that we've got an enormous amount of expertise, emergency service personnel and thousands of volunteers who are on site. But when you have major natural disasters, obviously you get terrible news.
Remain in place across the mid-north coast, Hunter region and central coast. Maxville, Port Macquarie, Manning Point and parts of Walker were told to evacuate last night. The Kempsey CBD, Smithtown and Gladstone are among the areas told to leave if it's safe. A massive rescue operation is continuing across the state. The SES has conducted more than 300 rescues in the past 24 hours, with residents stranded in floodwaters and on rooftops. Thousands have lost power and have been isolated by cut-off roads. Heavy rainfall is set to continue for the coming days. Authorities are projecting 200 to 300 millimetres of rain over the next day. The SES says conditions will likely continue to be challenging.
Aviation at night is dangerous in itself. There's high winds as well, so quite often we may not be able to get to certain locations. Similarly with boats, the currents we're seeing in these catchments at the moment makes operations in the day dangerous, at night very, very dangerous. So we've got a lot of rescues outstanding. Those people should be assured we are on our way. We're prioritising the ones that are life critical, especially if someone is in the water. Obviously that is our priority. Those people who are stranded, we haven't forgotten you. We're working through the list and we're going to get you as soon as possible. But as I said, the best thing the community can do in moving forward, if we receive any evacuation warnings, is please follow the warning. Get yourself out of there, because we may not be able to get to you to perform a rescue. We've got 9,000 residents in these evacuation warning areas at the moment. We've got 1,600 people in the field. It's a large operation. It's a multi-agency operation, and we're doing really well at getting through those jobs, but it'd be really great to not have as many jobs.
And our reporter Emma Siosian joins us now from Port Macquarie. Emma, how's it looking around Port Macquarie and Taree this morning?
Yes, good morning, Dan. I'm standing here on the banks of the Hastings River in Port Macquarie, which did go past the major flood level overnight, and many residents in low-lying areas that live along the banks of the river were asked to evacuate. The SES crews were out helping them move to higher ground, and business owners had a very anxious night, many out trying to move property or secure boats. I spoke to the owner of a business just behind me here, Jason Herbert, and here's what he had to say.
We've lifted everything up to prepare, but unfortunately we've probably gone past that in the sheds down there and the cafe below me, which is owned by the Chow House people. There's quite a significant loss, but we won't know exactly until we get in there. And at the moment, it's, you know, we can't get in there. It's flooded, and we don't want to even go in, enter the water.
And that was Jason Herbert. He owns a business just behind me here on the banks of the Hastings River, where there was major flooding overnight, just sitting tight while we watch to see what the river does. He says he has been watching the river levels slowly start to fall today, which is good news. And also south of here, Taree, where of course there was record flooding levels reached yesterday. River levels there starting to recede, but still many people in trouble. The SES crews working as hard as they can to reach people in often treacherous conditions. And with more heavy rainfall forecast over the next 24 hours, an anxious time remains for residents, but some good news that the weather system is expected to start easing across the mid-north coast region from tomorrow. So hopefully rivers right across the area can then start to ease and we can move into that clean-up and recovery phase.
Yeah, hopefully that's the case. Emma Siosian reporting there from Port Macquarie. And Angus Hines is Senior Meteorologist with the Bureau of Meteorology and joins us now. Good morning, welcome to the program. Tell me, what's the latest?
Morning, Dan. It's been, unfortunately, another extremely wet night, carrying into yet another wet day across the mid-north coast and the northern Hunter, which of course are the districts which have been hit hardest by this prolonged rain event. A couple of weather stations have picked up another 300 millimetres of rain in the past 24 hours, and that takes some locations up to 500 or 600 millimetres for the week so far, which is an incredible amount of rain any time of year, anywhere in the country. That is going to cause significant flooding issues, and of course we have seen those issues really rearing up over the past couple of days. It is still wet today, but what we're seeing on the radar imagery at the moment is the intensity of the rain is starting to ease. So it is likely to rain for several more hours, but those rainfall accumulations will just start to slow down a little bit through the course of the day on Thursday and then really be winding back on Friday. Much of the wettest areas in the northeast of the state will see the worst of the rain today, much drier from tomorrow onwards.
Yeah, Angus, this is an extraordinary amount of rain. Can you give us a sense of the weather system that is behind this?
Yeah, it's quite a remarkable one, because if you look at it on a weather map, the actual system which is causing all this rainfall doesn't look particularly threatening. It's what we call a coastal trough, which is quite common across the east coast of the country, but it's had a couple of things working for it which have really ramped up those rainfall numbers over the past few days. Firstly, the air that's getting drawn into the east coast is very humid. There's a lot of moisture in that air available to rain if the atmosphere is all set up correctly. And secondly, it just has not moved. Since about Monday, it's been sat in the same place, which means that it has rained day after day after day this week. If it had only been one day and then it had gone, we would have seen some minor or moderate flooding, but it wouldn't have been too bad. But 4 days in a row of this amount of rainfall, and we see this significant, extensive, widespread and major flood event happening in front of our eyes.
Yeah, so with this coastal trough, Angus, it's really the concentration of it and the fact that it's remained stagnant in one place, isn't it? But does that look like it's going to change?
It does look like it's going to change. Today and tomorrow being those key days where we will finally see a shift in the pattern, which will mean a shift in the rain and an easing in the intensity. So it is going to slide southwards, and in fact some of that moisture is going to push inland. So through the course of the day today, rain will start to move south down the coast. It's already starting to get wet in Sydney. They could get quite a wet day today, but nothing like the amount of rain they've seen further north. So we will not see the same amount of flooding in Sydney as we have seen further north, but certainly a wet day today and into tomorrow tomorrow. And we will also see some of that rain push into the western slopes and plains and parts of southwestern New South Wales. And by and large, those areas of the state will welcome the rainfall, having been very dry in recent months. But for those areas through the mid-north coast and the Hunter, who have been hit so hard through the course of the past 4 to 5 days, it will be wet today, intensity easing this afternoon and this evening, and much drier tomorrow as this entire weather system moves southwards.
And just in terms of that area that you touched on there, Angus,
I might have lost you there, I'm afraid.
Oh, have you still got me, Angus, or have we lost you altogether?
Yeah, sorry, can't hear anything.
Okay, apologies. We are obviously having some audio issues this morning. We'll seek to get back in touch with Angus Hinds, their senior meteorologist with the Bureau of Meteorology, when we can. But as you heard there, quite a significant rainfall, and that's today and tomorrow really the key point that's being watched. There is going to be some rain, as we were hearing just there, in Sydney. And of course, the area that we're seeing in this vision is where the real focus is, and we'll be returning to that as soon as we can. Again, apologies for the audio issues that we're having here today. Well, for more information on the unfolding severe weather and the latest flood warnings in New South Wales, you can tune in to your local ABC radio station or the ABC Listen app, of course, where they have rolling and updated information as it is coming to hand moment by moment. Well, other news now, and tensions between the Liberals and Nationals have escalated over discussions about shadow cabinet solidarity as the fallout from their shock split continues. Political reporter Evelyn Manfield joins us live from Parliament House in Canberra. And Evelyn, Nationals leader David Littleproud has given more detail this morning. What's he had to say?
David Littleproud says that he did, in these coalition agreement talks with Susan Lee, he did request that the Nationals could have an exemption to shadow cabinet solidarity. And what that would essentially be is that there could be an agreement reached in shadow cabinet, but then you could see National MPs potentially vote against the position of shadow cabinet on the floor of Parliament. And so he says that was a request. He says Susan Lee wrote back to him and he thought that response from Susan Lee was fair enough. He said he understood that and then agreed with what she said, and therefore he didn't feel the need to take this further to his party room. And he did also point out that, reflecting on the last term of Parliament, he thought these sort of issue of shadow cabinet solidarity did become kind of prominent for him during the Voice to Parliament, when in late 2022 the Nationals came out and said that they were going to oppose the Voice to Parliament, and they hadn't really given Peter Dutton, who was the opposition leader of course at the time, much notice about that. So Mr Littleproud was reflecting on that this morning, but really this has become quite an issue because Susan Lee, the now Liberal leader, says she didn't feel like she had an explicit agreement from the Nationals that they were going to secure this shadow cabinet solidarity. But Mr Littleproud addressed it all this morning. Here's him speaking.
She made it very clear that the cabinet solidarity that we've had and the processes around that will remain. That's why it wasn't up for debate. I thought it was fair and reasonable what Susan Lee put back in writing, and I wanted to make sure that we had everything looked at in terms of if something comes up, we didn't find ourselves in a situation that set our relationship back.
So the Nationals say their decision to walk away from the coalition really was based around these 4 key policies that they wanted this solid commitment on, and that included things like divestiture powers to be able to split up the supermarkets, but also progressing nuclear power as well. And so the Liberals this whole time have been arguing that because of how significant the loss was just a few weeks ago, they wanted to put all of the policies up for review. But the Nationals have been saying, well, we wanted to hang on to those 4, and they didn't think that they got the firm commitment that they wanted from the Liberals.
This is all very messy. What's the argument, though, from the other side of the former coalition, the Liberal side?
Yeah, that's right. So Susan Lee and her office say that this argy-bargy, I suppose, around a shadow cabinet solidarity was a sticking point. And we've heard Susan Lee say in recent days when she's been questioned about it that there was a concern for her that there could be a split from the Nationals in terms of climate policy, and she's been really clear that there's not going to be a new climate war under her leadership. So look, the tensions are certainly still bubbling away, and it's particularly interesting to watch this fallout because just a few weeks ago, obviously the two parties were hoping that together they could have formed government and led the Australian people, but now it's sort of headed in quite a different direction, Dan.
Indeed. Do keep us up to date. Evelyn Manfield reporting from Parliament House in Canberra. Overseas now, and the United Nations insists aid being allowed into Gaza is not getting to the people who desperately need it, even as Israel partially lifts its humanitarian blockade of the Strip. Middle East correspondent Matthew Doran reports from Jerusalem.
The aid trucks which are entering Gaza through the Kerem Shalom crossing near the Israel-Egypt border, and there's been another 100 of them making that journey today, are depositing their precious cargo on the Gaza side of the fence line, and then they are turning around and heading back into Israel. The expectation from there is that humanitarian agencies, such as those run by the United Nations, pick up those supplies and take them further into Gaza and to the people who need them. Quite aside from there being an issue and a debate with the small number of trucks coming over the border, far fewer than what it says is needed to tackle the hunger crisis, the UN is saying it's struggling to get to those supplies. While the aid crisis continues, the Israeli Prime Minister is also defending his military's expanded offensive in Gaza. Strikes have continued across the Strip and more evacuation warnings have been issued in northern Gaza in the last few hours after rockets were detected being fired towards Israel. Even as countries around the world demand Israel show some restraint given the high civilian death toll, Benjamin Netanyahu says the offensive is delivering on its goals. He says it's probable Hamas military commander Mohammed Sinwar has been killed in recent days. And in his first press conference in 5 months, Benjamin Netanyahu made this promise.
Our forces are seizing more and more territory to clear it of terrorists and Hamas terror infrastructure. At the end of this process, all areas of Gaza will be under the Israeli security control and Hamas will be completely defeated.
The frustrations being directed towards Israel are not just because of its conduct in Gaza, but also in the West Bank too, with the IDF opening fire towards a group of diplomats from European, Asian and Arab nations. The IDF says it regrets the inconvenience, but its soldiers fired warning shots because the group had deviated from an agreed route to the Jenin refugee camp. The group had been invited by the Palestinian Foreign Ministry to tour the northern city, which has been the focal point for the IDF in its crackdown on claimed militants in the West Bank. Italy and France have called in Israeli ambassadors in their countries to demand an explanation of the situation.
We definitely call on Israel to investigate this incident and also hold these accountable who are responsible for this, and any threats on diplomats' lives are unacceptable.
The incident raises many serious questions, not least why Israeli soldiers decided to open fire instead of issuing any other type of warning to the delegation.
Apologies, obviously having some tech issues this morning. US President Donald Trump has confronted his South African counterpart, Cyril Ramaphosa, over widely discredited claims of a white genocide in South Africa. North America correspondent Carrington Clark reports.
The difficulty in the relationship between the US president and the country of South Africa is that he has bought in fully into this fringe theory that currently there is a genocide against whites in South Africa, particularly white farmers. He has been perpetuating this storyline both in his first term and now in his second term in office, but also perhaps the role of Elon Musk, the world's richest man who was born in South Africa, has also been instrumental in amplifying these particular views. Now, we knew that there was the chance that this meeting would get tense, and obviously we were all thinking back to that February meeting in the same Oval Office where Donald Trump and the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, got involved in a very heated discussion, which eventually ended with President Zelensky actually being evicted from the White House. This meeting started off positively. It seemed that perhaps the president of South Africa had learnt from that Zelensky experience and came armed with thanks for Donald Trump, given that President Zelensky was criticised by Vice President J.D. Vance for not being thankful enough for the help that the US has given. So he was giving lots of thanks. He brought along a couple of golfers from South Africa, obviously trying to please the golf-loving US president. But it really seemed to go off the rails when a journalist asked the President of the United States what he would need to hear in order to change his mind on whether or not there was a genocide in South Africa. And the President of South Africa decided to answer that question for him and said that Donald Trump would need to listen to the voices in South Africa. And then we saw the ambush put into play. Donald Trump asked for the lights to be dimmed in the Oval Office, and then he played this video which was purported to have evidence of this genocide being carried out against white South Africans. There was no violence in the video, but there was a montage of clips, including from some fringe politicians in South Africa and some political stunts. But this is just a little of the back and forth of the scene that we saw in the Oval Office a little earlier today.
But we have many people that feel they're being persecuted and they're coming to the United States. So we take from many locations if we feel there's persecution or genocide going on. Generally, they're white farmers and they're fleeing South Africa.
If there was Afrikaner farmer genocide, I can bet you these three gentlemen would not be here, including my Minister of Agriculture. He would not be with me.
Now, Australia received a couple of mentions from the US president today. He said that the white South African farmers were not only going to the United States, but also to Australia. Donald Trump has put in place a refugee program for white South African farmers to come to the United States outside the usual process. Australia doesn't have a similar process in place, but he said that large numbers had gone to Australia as well. Interestingly, the South African president has suggested he thinks the meeting was still fruitful, but quite strangely said that it was relatively drama-free, which anyone who was watching it live, it was anything but.
Returning now to the flood emergency in New South Wales, and Rod Trenchard is the co-owner of Snow and Sons Butchery in Wingham on the mid-north coast and joins us now. Rod, welcome to the program. Tell me what you're seeing there.
Oh, mate, look, we've just had the water recede now in the last couple of hours, so we've got the SES here helping us clean up and get the gunk out of the centre as best we can.
And so your butcher's there is inside the shopping centre, and I understand that the entire place was flooded, in some areas at least a foot or so deep.
Yeah, that's correct. We've had up to about a metre of water through the whole centre. It's only a small little centre. We're a little country town. It's got about 5 shops in here, and we all had about a metre of water through it. It was not great.
And I understand also that within your shopping centre is the only place for fresh fruit and vegetables for that area, for the region there.
It's the only supermarket. There's a little green grocer up the street. But yeah, Coles, you can see probably behind me, is the only shopping centre, only grocery store in the region. So.
Yeah, Rod, how do you assess what you're seeing there as you're beginning the cleanup that you just mentioned?
Oh, it's just a matter of going through, cleaning, figuring out what works, what doesn't, what's damaged, what's not, and we just sort of go from there. It's a see as it's played as we go sort of thing.
Yeah, and there's been a lot said about the scale of this flooding. I understand that you grew up in that area. Have you ever seen anything like this?
No, mate. I've been here 45 years, my whole life, and I've never seen anything like this. It's unheard of. It's really a tragedy.
Yeah. How is the community grappling with that tragedy?
Look, mate, the community is pulling together. We've got a fabulous community here. There, it's fabulous, but there's still a lot of heartbreak from the 2021 floods. A lot of families are only just back up on their feet, and going again from 21, and now just to be re-inundated and destroyed again it's heartbreaking.
Mate, it must wear you pretty thin.
Oh, it does, mate. It's a scar on the community. We talk about it regularly, and now to have it all happen again, it really opens up the old wounds from 21.
Yeah, and I understand that you live next door or nearby. What about for you? What's happened with your home?
Oh, my home's okay. It is next door, but it's quite a bit higher, so I'm lucky in that regard. So I've had the local baker with me. We've been here for 3 days, just saving what we can, doing what we can, and yeah.
And what about the rest of your team that work there at the butchers?
Yeah, most of them are isolated in different towns or different areas. I've got one of my boys with me, Steve-O. He's been here day and night helping us, so we're very thankful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you were. What about the local evacuation centre? We understand that came into operation and has been open as part of this particular emergency.
Yeah, absolutely. The local evacuation centre is Wingham RSL Club, and they've been fabulous, putting up families and anyone that had to be evacuated. We were up there last night, and it's quite harrowing to see all the young families, elderly people, dogs, and that's everyone just. Yeah, it was heartbreaking.
It's at times like this, isn't it, where we see the strength of community?
Yeah, look, our community's fabulous. They always shine through. And we've had the bushfires, floods, another flood. And our community always stands up and helps one another. As you can probably see behind me, not only do we have the SES here, we've got, local football players and local young men here helping clean, and we just pull together where we can.
Yeah, and what does it say to you that you've got all of those volunteers from across the community? You've got the SES that have swooped in, where there's talk about defence being further deployed in some areas. What does it all say to you?
Sorry, can you say again? I missed that one.
I was just saying, what does it say to you that you've got all of these volunteers and the SES and all of the services coming together?
It just speaks volumes to the human spirit, like how we can all pull together when we need to. As the water recedes with the homes and stuff, we will need the defence. There's a lot of work to do. We'll need some help.
Yeah, and in terms of that help, as you are turning your attention to the cleanup and the recovery, what's the most urgent thing that you need now? What do you want to say to the politicians and decision makers?
In the very short term, the most urgent thing for people's food. Coles is closed, so we don't have any access to food. Every route in the Wingham's closed. In the medium to short term is clean up. We just need people to, you're talking about houses are up to their roof. Everything's going to have to be gutted out of them. That's where we're going to need help.
This is going to be a long-term operation ahead. Any final thoughts before we let you go and get back to it?
My only final thoughts is just for everyone out there, stay safe. If it's flooded, forget it. Don't go into flood water. Just be safe and help one another.
Rod Trenchard, they're the co-owner of Snow and Sons, a butcher in Wingham. Thank you so much. Good luck, and do stay in touch. Let us know how you go.
Stay safe. Bye for now.